Hello there, yes, I am finally doing a Skul item tier list. A few people have been asking, and when I say a few, I mean a lot, for an item tier list, so here we are. This actually started off as a Twitch challenge, where the idea was for them to spend 250,000 channel points collectively over a month, and if they could get this goal complete within a month, then I would do the tier list live on stream and make a video from it. They managed to achieve this in about 6 hours on the first day I released the challenge, which is also incredible because I limited them to 2,000 points per person. So this was still really stupid that they got this done, but here we are anyway, a lot sooner than I expected. Now the video is a little long. Long, you think? You think? It's 2 hours. It's 2 hours and at least like 13 minutes long. It's 2 hours. You think? You think it's long? You think? Huh? Idiot. You think it's long. Yeah. It's short, dude. So if you do just want to skip straight to the end and see the finished list and get a small recap as to what the different tiers mean and what the 50-50 tier means, then you can go to this timestamp on the screen. Go to that timestamp and you'll have me recapping, you know, what D is for, what C, B, and A, all those things. But if you're here for the long haul and to hear me explain why I think each item goes in each space, by the way, this is where I put in the mandatory, this is my list, not yours. You might disagree. I expect you to disagree, by the way. Let me know in the comments down below what you think and where you would put things instead. I'm not the kind of person who's gonna get mad if you disagree. But if you're here for that, I won't keep you. Enjoy. Thank you very much for checking out the video, and I'll see you next time. We are going to do a tier list for Skul the Hero Slayer. Whatever the current version number is, I'll find it and put it in the title probably somewhere. But we're going to rank all of the items in the game. There's a lot of them. There's more than 100 here. We're going to rank them all from S to 50-50. S tier is the best in the game. D is worst in the game. 50-50 is the throwaway tier for items that we either don't know or items that are so incredibly circumstantial that they're either godlike or they're garbage, because it entirely depends on the circumstances that you're in at the time, right? And besides that, I think we're ready to just jump in and get started. Big shoutouts to whoever actually finished putting this list together. I know you messaged me at some point asking me to do this. It doesn't show your name on here anywhere, which I would love it if it did, but either way, I'm happy with the list being here. Let's get started. First and foremost, I see my first target. Bottled Embers, D tier. Common item. Basic garbage that we normally get at the start of our runs or in the first couple of rooms, but the only reason that it's not good is because burning effects and status effects don't affect boss fights. Most regular foot soldiers and generic enemies will die in 3 to 4 hits from any attack that you're doing. Any skill will basically kill them in 1 hit. Especially early game when you first get this, it doesn't carry to late game at all. It has Volcano on it, which is a bit of a dumb meme. It isn't really that good. But yeah, you really don't want this because it doesn't work on boss fights. If this affected bosses, if you could burn bosses, this would actually go up a little bit in scaling, because then you'd be able to melt like the Chimera and Yggdrasil a little bit quicker. But because this doesn't do that, it's pretty rough. It's pretty stupid. Something that I do want to put up really high, though, is the Carlean Insignia. I want this to be an A tier. Because it's common, and because you normally always find it, at least I mostly always find it, in the first shop or the second shop in Act 1, as well as just from chests or from the very start from the Ogre, having this and being able to get any of the other Carlean items is a really big boon to your gold income. Just increase currency. Currency is king. The more money you have, the more access to buying items or re-rolling items that you have. You can also buy food. If you're getting hit or hurt too much, you can buy quintessences nice and early quintessence can make a big difference as well. It's just too useful. If you get this from the Ogre at the start of your run, it's free. You've basically just got a boost to your income, guaranteed. Having to buy it, however, if you have to buy it in, say, Act 2 or 3, at that point, I'm not sure it's worth it, because you also need all the Carlean stuff. If you've already got 3 or 4 Carlean items, maybe, but even then, buying it might not be worth. Now, while we're doing the Carlean items, I'm gonna do the staff, which, funny enough, I might put the staff in A, because the Carlean staff, it's, I'll put it in B. I'll drop it in B. B is, like, a good item that you can keep until the very end of the run. Okay, so it's in B. So The reasoning for this is you can get it at the start of the game. It's a Carleon item. It synergizes with the insignia. It's amazing. It's got good synergy with so many things. And it has tactics. So, despite the fact that it says it gives you 30% magic, it actually gives you 35 because even just having one tactics is a 5% boost. If you're doing a magic run with any of your favorite magic skulls, Lich, Alchemist, Frost, even Water Skulls, this just does a lot for you because you want to boost tactics, and the more tactics, the better. And what you don't want are items like... Where is it? I'm trying to segue into my next point. Oh my god, there's so many items here. Where is it? This is going very poorly according to plan. There it is! What you don't want is Hatestone. Right? Well, you need Hatestone. Here's the problem. Hatestone has two of the best inscriptions on it. Tactics and Madness. The problem is, Hatestone's base effect is a compensation for getting hurt, as opposed to doing something else for you that actually helps you. So, you need to get hurt, and then you get a magic boost. Now, a lot of players out there, including myself, still get hurt when playing through the game, so the 55% magic boost doesn't really go amiss. The problem is, the better you get at the game, or the better you are at avoiding damage, or the better you are at just not, you know, not forgetting to pay attention, like I do sometimes, you won't actually see the effect of this item. So sometimes it's dead in the water, and the only reason you have it is for the two inscriptions. Which, yes, they're good inscriptions, it has tactics on it, but it's not enough. Whereas the staff gives you a good base effect, plus a decent inscription. This is an example of an item that's carried entirely by its inscriptions, but I still don't think it's good enough to justify it being here. I'll preface right now that this list isn't ordered. If they're in a certain tier, they're just universally in that tier. I'm not trying to imply that Bottled Embers is still better than Hatestone. Realistically, I think it's still worse than Hatestone, because it just doesn't have better inscriptions either. But just whatever tier they're in, that's the tier they're in. Now, next up, I might just get this out of the way now, right? I might just get this out of the way now, but the Virus is an S tier. Our first S tier has been dropped in. Yes, the Virus doesn't scale incredibly well moving into Act 4. Some skulls can still benefit. You look at the big heavy hitters, things like Minotaur and Berserker, the big power skulls. Warlock with lasers and meteors still works, obviously. Even Lich and Reaper can still get this to activate in the final area. But that doesn't mean, just because it has a hard time in the last area, that it's not also the most broken thing that you can get early on, because this is a rare tier item. It is a rare. You can get it from the Ogre at the start. You can find it in Act 1 and 2 fairly easily if you get a little bit of good luck on your side. It's not like it's a legendary, hard-to-find thing. But given its rarity and how powerful it is, it's too amazing. This right here, the Virus, single-handedly makes a speedrun possible, because if you get Werewolf at the start of a speedrun with a Virus, either from the very start or in the first couple of rooms, you can run through Act 1 in like a minute, and then start chunking your way through Act 2, right? It's really, really powerful. It has amazing inscriptions on it, having necromancy on it as well. Like, it improves your killing ability. It's like, kill harder. You're already killing an enemy hard, it finishes them off, and then it triggers necromancy that then kills more enemies for you. And in some circumstances, if you get enough necromancy on the screen, that also triggers more virus procs. It feeds into itself. It's too good. Now, as Noxide pointed out, it is weak on bosses, which is the only drawback that it has, but I still think its ability to clear through rooms as effectively, and its legacy as being this really powerful speedrunning thing, I think it still deserves S because of its rarity. Its rarity and its ease of access makes it too good. If this was a legendary item, I would drop it down to A. If it was a unique, it'd be an A. But because you can get this at the very start and blitz 90% of the game, I'd still say that's an S in my book. In my book, at least. This is more of a controversial pick. You might want to put this in A or B if it's your list. I'm definitely keeping this in S. Being able to, like, save 30 minutes on a run thanks to this thing alone? Yes, please. Yes, please. I might just go down in order, maybe. So, we've got the Ancient Incense Burner. I'm going to stick this in a firm B. Ancient Incense is very, very good, because it's giving you a massive cooldown increase. Like, it boosts the cooldown speed of your quintessences. It also has ruins on it, which is the inscription that does the same thing. So this is like, once again, it's a win more item. You get one of them, you get a massive boost to your quintessence cooldown. The inscription, if you can get 3 out of 3 in ruins, it just gets even better and better and better. However, the only issue with it is if you don't already have an amazing quintessence, that was an inscription, if you don't have an amazing quintessence, it doesn't have any value. You might have an kind of okay one that you're not really too keen on, that you're okay with giving up later, like Harpy. Especially things like Harpy, that are fun for, like, you know, memes, but they're not really good for later on. If you get this with something like Swanezio, though, or Kobold, then you're looking at something really, really powerful. So this kind of, it accelerates in value the better your quintessence is, and it decelerates the worse it is. But I still think it fits in B because just in general, it is still valuable. As long as you got a good quintessence, but I still think it's a B tier item. The book whose name I still literally can't remember because I never take this. This is going in D. This is actually a unique item. This is the unique drop from the Joan fight. This is one of her unique boss items. And the reason this goes in D is purely because of when you get it. It's a powerful effect. It summons a big beam down from the sky. It does a lot of magic damage. It's a magical item. However, you get it from the Joan fight, and the only battle of merit that comes after Joan is the hero fight. You don't care about the statues. The statues are just, you know, stepping stones in the way. Using the book on the hero fight, one, it's only useful if you've got, for some reason, 8 items and you don't have another item to take, and you just get this and you're just like, okay, cool, free item. But the hero moves around during the fight so much. He's a very mobile boss. He's more mobile than the sisters, I would argue. Like, the sisters jump around a lot, but the hero is just on you constantly. And he dashes around, he does leaps into the sky, he does a lot of stuff. This beam, half the time, won't even get a chance to do full damage on him. It's just not good. It's just not good. It needs to come earlier. If this item could be given to you earlier in the game, and be used on things like the Chimera, or Yggdrasil, or even the sisters, or Joan herself, or just for adventurer fights in that smaller room where you probably have a good chance of hitting someone, sure. For where you get it, no, it ruins it. It makes it a D tier. Absolutely not. Next up, we've got the knife. I'm gonna put the knife in B. The knife, realistically, could be an A tier because it works really well with speed skulls, but your good old-fashioned bandit knife down here is... It's circumstantial. It's one of the few items that have, there's a couple of them in the game, that actually have side effects depending on the type of skull that's using it. So normally you get a 10% boost to your crit, and it comes with some madness on it. 2 very nice effects that you want. However, if a speed skull is using it, you get a movement and attack speed boost as well, which makes it very strong. I would argue that on a speed skull, it should be an A. But I'm going to rank this, objectively speaking, with their base effects without taking anything extra into consideration, like what skull is using it, just to try and keep this from being too convoluted. So on its own, without the extra attack and movement speed boost, I think this is a B. 10% crit, it's nice. The madness on it, it's nice. Very useful, decent. I'll take this on most runs, especially madness runs. Go for it. Alright? Next up we have the the Berserker's Gauntlet. Now the Berserker's is our first C tier, right? It's not garbage. It's not garbage. However, it's also not great, right? What this does is it gives you more attack speed based on how much life you've lost. Which kind of is the same problem I was telling you about Hatestone, where this rewards you for already being in a bad situation, which isn't a bad idea. You need items like this. Every game is going to have things like this. The problem is, realistically, you don't want this to happen. Most of these other items, Hatestone and the knife right here, both have madness on them. Berserkers is our next madness inscription item. And the fact that the madness coincides with the attack speed boost that the gauntlet gives you from having low life is very, very cool. It snowballs on its own inscription and its own effect. However, the problem there is you really do need to be losing life. This synergizes quite well with Berserker, since he's already giving up his own life in the first place. Beyond that, you really don't want to have this, because every time you go to a shop and you buy food, you're nerfing your own item, and that's just not a good feel. It's not a good feel. It's not necessarily bad, but I still don't think it's necessarily all that great. And I only take it if I'm doing a madness run. Otherwise, I don't consider this at all. Next up, Bone Hourglass. And I'm gonna make a bit of a controversial decision here, because people know I don't take this item very much, but I really think Bone Hourglass is a B tier. Right? I think the Hourglass is a B tier because it's another one of these items that's very similar to the Berserkers. It's very similar to Berserker's Gauntlet, and it's very similar to things like the Knife that feed into its own effect. So the Bone Hourglass is a mutant type item, which means it reduces the cooldown of your swaps, but it baseline comes with the effect that it halves, it cuts the cost, the time of your swaps by 0.5 seconds. A 0.5 off of swapping, in addition to having mutant on it to also reduce it, it's like having Incense Burner that has ruins on it. It's doing an effect, and it has an inscription that compounds on that effect and makes it even better. Right? So that's why I think this should belong in B, because swapping more is more power as well. Pretty much every skull in the game besides Prisoner can benefit from swapping. I would argue that you shouldn't swap into Little Bone unless you're really confident you're not going to get hurt, because he has a very long animation for his swap. But either way, most skulls like swapping, and at the same time, mutant builds are pretty good, and this is the best mutant item in terms of getting that cooldown down so you can get a lot of swap-ins. Decent, not amazing, but decent. Now, right here, I'm going to put my first 50-50 in. The Courage Bone. Courage Bone is going in 50-50, and you might hate me for this, but Courage Bone is going in the 50-50 because on one hand, it's amazing, on the other hand, it's garbage. The problem is the Courage Bone does not do very well unless you have 2 Power Skulls. There are 3 bone items in the game, as you know. You have the Bone of Courage, the Bone of Swiftness, and the Mana Bone down here. And the way that they work is the more of the same type of skulls, in this case Power, the Swiftness one is Speed, and the Mana Bone down below is Balance. The more Power Skulls you have, up to 2, you get a bonus to damage. Now, having that bonus to damage on a certain hit is great. The problem is, any old hit can trigger this. It's like saying, in the next 6 seconds, your next attack is going to do bonus damage. But if you do anything else, if any other source of damage hits, it's going to basically ruin that effect. It's similar to another 50-50 item that I'm actually going to grab and drop in here really quick if I can still see where it is. Because I can, yeah, there we go. I can still talk about it in the same vein. So, Doomsday, right? The Doomsday Hammer and the Bone of Courage both have very similar drawbacks. Bone of Courage, you can accidentally lose your big damage proc to a small point of damage that you didn't want it to. For example, I recently did a warrior run, and I didn't realize at the time, but it was pointed out to me that the reason why my Bone of Courage wasn't causing big hits on my big charged up attacks is because when he's charging up an attack, he pulses small bits of damage as he powers it up. And those small pulses of damage were eating my Bone of Courage and causing the extra damage to be applied to those instead of the big swing. Right? On the flip side, Doomsday being in D tier, or being in 50-50 I should say, not D tier, it's in 50-50 is because it is both really good and really bad, because it's timed. When it activates, you store up damage into it, and then when it finishes being activated, it blows up and does a big burst of damage. Now, for some skulls, like Berserker, like Predator, like Samurai, you can get really good value out of this, because all you have to do is wait for the effect to trigger and then go full burst mode. Oh, as Doomsday activated, I'm going to activate Berserker's big transformation and then just start swinging on the entire screen. And you can blow up a boss fight. Joan, the hero, Chimera, they will die from this, because you can end up with thousands of bonus damage coming out of Doomsday. Samurai, just wait for this to activate and then do a full moon slash. And you've got another multiple thousands of damage coming out of it. Right? The hard part is that for virtually every other circumstance in the game, it's not great, because if you're clearing a room and you kill all of your enemies around you and there's no enemies left, and then you've got a big fat Doomsday that just gets wasted, that doesn't feel good. So it's very circumstantial. 50-50 is the circumstantial tier because on one hand, they're very good when they work, and on the other hand, they're trash when they don't work. But what's not trash is the Bone of Swiftness, which is going to be our next B tier. Now, Bone of Swiftness is one of those win more kind of items, the same as Bone of Courage, except Bone of Swiftness just works. It's the Speed Skull equivalent. The more Speed Skulls you have, the more critical bonus damage you're doing. It basically does bonus damage to your opponents based on how many speed skulls you have when you crit. So if you're already a big critting kind of skull, like a lot of speed boys are, say werewolf, samurai, even ninja, it just becomes better and better and better. But the question I've got to ask myself is, do I look at this objectively as just a flat item, or do I look at it as being held by the appropriate skulls who are going to hold it? And seeing as how I made the decision to put the knife in B tier because I'm not letting a speed skull hold it, I'm going to put bonus swiftness in here just as a baseline because it's still useful for most other skulls in the game. But if I was going to rank this based on speed skulls holding it, it'd probably go into S. If you've got a double speed skull team, this is an amazing addition. But if it's not a speed skull team, goes in B. The same as how the knife would go into S tier if a speed skull was holding that, because for a speed boy, knife is godlike. Take it immediately. Now, next, I see what we're going to end up doing here. Next is the Brawler's Knuckle. I'm going to stick this in B. B because it's very, very nice. It's not terrible. It's good. I see Seven Eyes screaming S. Brawler's Knuckle is good. I don't know if I want to put it in S, though. Free damage, free money is a good point. You have 25% bonus physical damage here. You've got 7% extra crit on it, and you've also got Miser on it. The only problem I have with Brawler's Knuckle is that I feel like it drops off a little bit too hard later on. The crit is good. The physical is good. The Miser is good value. But I think you still end up getting rid of this towards the end of most of your runs. And crit. It does a lot of things well. I don't think it does... It's like a jack of all trades, right? It's like a jack of all trades, master of none. It's got money, crit, and damage. But I don't think it lives long enough in the water to really thrive and survive. You know? I don't think it pushes you the same way that other money items like the Insignia does. The Insignia doesn't do anything for combat, but it pushes everything else. Still outweighs most mid-game items. It does. It outweighs a lot of this other stuff here. I would say this is up to your interpretation. I'd say it would be a good A tier item as well. I'd say Knuckle could be a good A or a B. It's definitely like in between. If I had a B plus tier, it'd be the first B plus item. But it basically just does a lot of good things really well. Crit, damage, money, value, right? Value. Now let me find something not so good so I can stop dropping things into the middle of the tier list. Oh, there we go. Fantastic. The Dark Quartz. Dark Quartz is going in D. I don't care about the Dark Quartz item, and the majority of people don't either. It's just life. It's bonus life. Bonus life is fine. You're allowed to like having bonus life. Bonus life is not a bad thing, but it's another one of these items that it's not really helping you in terms of helping you kill things faster or do more damage or excel. It's giving you more life to get hurt with. Now, as far as defensive items go, just having more raw life isn't really that good. There are a lot of other defensive items we'll get to that actually do a lot of good things for you defensive-wise. Most of the really powerful items in the game that I suggest for new players to get are defensive items. By far the worst one. You don't want just a raw beat stick of extra life, because you're still going to get hit. If you're struggling in the game, you're still going to get hit, you're still going to lose all that life. It's not really going to help you that much, right? And it has no synergy later on. It falls off incredibly quickly. I would argue sell this in Act 1, let alone Act 2, right? What if it's S tier post-update for Ghoul? For Ghoul, if it becomes S tier post-update, then it might go to B tier because, or 50-50. It'll go to 50-50 tier if it's that circumstantial. It's almost Hate Stone? Yeah, it's almost like a Hate Stone. It's not that great. What can I grab next? What's something fun that I can grab? Right, the Ointment. Explosive Ointment I'm going to stick in D tier as well. Simply because, I mean, if this was ordered, I'd probably do this. I would probably put it up the front. Can I get this in the front? If I was going to order it, I would put this about here. It's not the worst thing in the world, but I don't think it pulls ahead enough to be C tier quality, right? I don't think it's going to work that well in C tier. It does a little bit of extra damage when you get hurt. It's not the worst effect in the world. It activates, but very similar to Hate Stone. It's another one of these things that it does a thing when you get hurt. It does a thing when you're not doing well. A bit like the Berserker's Gauntlet, but the Berserker's Gauntlet at least has a good inscription, and the attack speed ramps up more, and it's noticeable. This is just okay. These items that reward you for getting injured, like I said, you need them in the game, but I don't think they're really doing that much for you long term. On the other hand, something that does work for you long term, because I'm looking for a good defensive item, is Knight's Determination, right? Knight's Determination is one of these items that I always say, if you're new to the game and you're trying to learn the game, you need to get a whole bunch of good defensive items, jam them all together, and they end up becoming fantastic. Knight's Determination. When you're at 30% life or lower, you take 30% less damage. So, as opposed to just giving you, say, 40 or 50 more life, this is going to increase your defense when you're low. And I put this in A tier because it has a best friend, who I can see down here, who's also going to sit up here in A tier with it. These two items are a pair made in heaven. We often say that this is the Goblin Slayer pair because you've got the priest staff and the helmet. Bit of a reference, if I do say so myself. So while you're below 30% life, you take less damage. While you're below 30% on life, the priest staff begins to heal you for small amounts of life. This duo can effectively keep you locked at 30% HP, but also keep you from dying too quickly. Right? It's a really good defensive set. And what you then add to it to make this defensive set even more powerful is the Warrior's Pauldrons. This is your trifecta of brilliance. If you're looking to survive in Skul and you're having a hard time getting through, you are looking for Knights, Priest Staff, Warrior's Pauldrons. Activating a shield for 5 seconds in front of you that just blocks all incoming damage. Nothing in front of you will hurt you. The hero can throw a giant blade beam of doom at you. Won't do a thing. It's a free get me out of jail free card. The only caveat to it is it's not activated on demand. It's a cyclical buff that activates whenever it wants to. However, if you really want to, you can line this up with some of your more risky effects. Say, for example, you're playing a Skul that has a long timer on its effect, like, say, whenever you want to do Lich's Ice Chains or his Seal, or you're looking to do something risky, like activate the bike on Rider. If you've got the shield in front of you, this just makes it a little bit more safe, because you won't get injured as a result of doing it. Next up, what can I throw in here next? You know what, let's just throw the last one in here. Let's just do this. Priest's Robe. The Dark Priest Robes, right? Dark Priest Robe is another one of these items. These four together make a god set. If you want to see how this stuff can all synergize together, you go and you take a look at my most recent Shield Boy run. The big, long 1 hour and 40-minute shield run that resulted in me not being able to die to the hero fight at all. I was immortal against the hero fight. Now, the robes have a fantastic inscription with necromancy. We love necromancy. It's a very good win more kind of inscription. But at the same time, the robes are very similar to the Knight's Determination, very similar to the Pauldrons. When you go below 30 life, you activate a 30 health shield on a 1.5 minute cooldown. The cooldown isn't too long, the shield effect is good, it's enough to save you in a room. It effectively doubles your remaining life just to give you enough time to get out of there. Best part is, though, if you're really, really anxious, you can just sit and wait for the cooldown to run off. It's only a 1.5 minutes. You can just stand there, you know, go make a sandwich, go get a coffee, come back, and the cooldown has run off, go into the next room. As soon as you get touched, new shield. You can just get shield upon shield upon shield to absorb damage for you. And if you happen to have the rest of this set of items, well, you're effectively almost a god. You would need to get hit by some really hard things and make some big mistakes to die, but overall, I think this sits pretty comfortably in A. Now, what can I take that's, some busted stuff? Let's throw the busted stuff in here. These are technically the same item, but I'm putting them both here because they're basically the same thing. I think Forbidden Sword belongs in S just because it leads into Kyrian. Forbidden Sword on its own isn't a big damage increase, but it doesn't have to be. You only take this if you're aiming for Kyrian. Don't do what I do and take it as a dumb meme, get halfway and then sell it. If you take it, you're using it. Don't sell it. Don't ditch it. If you've got it, you're keeping it. But we all know how busted Kyrian is. Kyrian's one of the most powerful items in the entire game. It basically carried physical builds into godhood status because back in early access, magic ran rampant. Magic skulls and magic builds were the best. As soon as we got these new brilliant S-tier physical items like Hope Slasher and Kyrian, everything started to change a little bit, and we started to see physical skulls make a big comeback because Kyrian just, it does everything for you. It's got madness on it, which feeds into the effect of whenever you attack, you get this extra red wave. Dashing has benefits to it now, so dashing alone. The dash attack with Kyrian does more damage than the red slash from basic attacks. So just evading an enemy can end up killing it. It's amazing, which feeds into Hope Slasher. Hope Slasher is the big beat stick. Hope Slasher is like 120% physical damage plus courage. It's just oof. It's oomph. It's big, raw, stinky, nasty damage. And to go along with that big, nasty, stinky damage, where in the world is it? You know what I'm looking for? You know what I'm looking for. I know chat knows what I'm looking for. Where is its counterpart? Because for everything that physical gets, you know magic gets one the same. I can't... There it is. It's the big funny looking purple one. There we go. Nether Mana Suppressor. Right? So Nether Mana Suppressor is the equivalent to Hope Slasher for magic builds. So Nether Mana Suppressor gives a big, flat, chunky, stupid magic boost. If you're doing a magic run and you want some tactics, you get this. This is, as Bumper says, goated. This is a brilliant item. The difference, though, funny enough, Hope Slasher is independent. You get all of the good stuff from it, just from fighting and being in the thick of it. Nether Mana Suppressor wants you to have cooldown increasing effects. So, for example, things like the Broken Mana Engine, the secondary effect from ritual stuff, just anything that boosts cooldown effects to get the extra bonus damage. Now, is that a little bit difficult to do sometimes? I would argue no, because normally magic builds have cooldown increasing effects because a lot of magic skulls have long cooldowns, as opposed to the shorter cooldowns that some physicals have. Prisoner, with virtually no cooldown at all. However, I would still say this is an S tier. It's right up there with Hope Slasher. It's by far probably the best magic item that you can get, and definitely worthy of S tier, even if you have to put a little bit more investment into it to get the big payout. But just the raw effect on its own, without the investment, still S tier. Still fantastic. Now, speaking of Mana Engine, I may as well take Mana Engine now. We're going to stick this in B. I think Mana Engine is a firm B. It's not bad. It's not going to carry you to an easy win the same way that some of the other items up above can. However, it's just good, right? 30% increase to cooldown speed. That 30% is just good on its own. Not only that, it comes with Mana Tech, which as an inscription, you drop the little Mana Tech items on the ground, you pick them up, and your cooldowns get shorter. Wow, it's amazing. It's almost like this item, similar to some of these others, like the Incense and like the Bone, or even the Hourglass, it feeds into its own effect. It already lowers cooldowns, and then it has an inscription that lowers cooldowns even more. It's amazing. It's a win more item. The only problem with it is that eventually by the end of most runs, you try and get rid of it or replace it with something a bit better or a bit stronger. Having said that, you can, and most likely sometimes will, end up keeping it long-term if you like it like I do. But yeah, you don't need to keep it long-term. B tier, it's solid, it's fair. Something that I think I want to do now is put another 50-50 in there, and that would be Clone Stamp. Now, Clone Stamp is a gamble item. Quite literally, Clone Stamp's effect is simply that the two inscriptions it comes with, it's the same inscription, but it's always random. So you can get 2 Tactics, 2 Courage, 2 Fairy Tale, Live the Dream, Summon an Easy Oberon. Now the problem is, it's a 50-50 because 9 out of 10 times, 2 Madness, very fun getting 2 Madness, or 2 Mutant to fill in some of those harder to get inscriptions. 9 out of 10 times you're going to see it and it's going to offer you something you really don't want or don't care about. However, if you're really desperate to fill some gaps, let's say, for example, you're at 5 out of 7 tactics, and this thing rocks up with 2 tactics on it, those 2 extra points in tactics is like 50 to 60% more magic attack. At that point, you can consider Clone Stamp being a big magic boost, and for courage, like SS is saying, a massive courage boost. If it's going to help you do more of a good thing by a large margin and kind of close a gap, yes. 2 Volcano is a bad joke, exactly. That's why this exists in the 50-50 tier, because if it's got, even if it's going to help you fill in 2 extra of another inscription that's decent, let's say you've got 2 Volcano, and you want 2 more Volcano, you could take Clone Stamp, but I still don't think Volcano is worth getting 4 out of 4 in, which is why it's very circumstantial on what it gives you. Also gives health, oh yeah, no one cares about that. It's more like a 30-70. It's more like a 30-70, realistically, but I'm not going to make a 30-70 tier. Basically, if this thing helps you, it helps you. It's probably not, though. It's probably not going to help you at all. Now, I'm looking forward to putting the D in there. Draftstone, D tier. Woo, Draftstone. We don't care about Draftstone. D tier, yeah. Now, Draftstone is a bit of a dumb meme. Draftstone was not that great back in early access. Back in the early days, the way that Draftstone worked was it only gave a 30% boost, 30% magic and 30% physical to the soldier skulls, which would be Sword, spear, now called pike, shield, bomber, right? Those 4 skulls would get a 30% boost to only the soldier types. This is also back when Skul didn't have upgrades, so you couldn't upgrade your skulls from common to unique and rare, etc. They were stuck at whatever tier they were. Nowadays, your soldier skulls can all upgrade to legendary, so having a 30% boost for a legendary still wouldn't be a bad idea, but for whatever reason they decided that, hey, this item was a bit too specific, it gatekept people a little bit, and they don't like playing the soldier skulls, this item's not getting use. Let's just make it a 10% boost to physical and magical damage and call it a day. It's not a bad effect. It's still better than having raw life, it's still better than getting a useless item that you're not really going to benefit from. I would argue that Draftstone is probably the best of the worst. It's still not the worst thing as far as a flat damage boost is concerned. I would even put Hatestone further ahead though, because of the inscriptions, let's be honest. But Draftstone's not doing enough for you. Virtually no one that I know keeps it, or even picks it up. You don't go to the shop and see Draftstone and go, oh cool, I'll take that. The same way that you would, you know, the staff or the insignia. It's a bad early game item, don't take it. Now, what's not a bad early game item, where's the next one? I know what I'm after. Here we go, some Carlean goodness, the Carlean flavor. I believe the sword belongs in B, next to its staff counterpart. These two are peas in a pod. They are effectively the same thing, just one is magic, one is physical.
The tragic extent of my failing.
The sword you can keep basically long term. No failings, by the way. How dare you? The sword you will keep long term if you're looking to build courage on a physical build. If you've got the insignia up here, then you'll keep it long term for more money. The sword you very well can keep until the very end of your run. You will only get rid of this if you're not doing courage, or if you've just found something stronger and you happen to not be doing courage, right? They're at least decent. I would say most of the Carlean items fit B or C tier. This also feeds into the synergy with the insignia. Like I said, more money, more power. You'll keep it long term, solid item, common, get it early, good, win more. Good stuff. Next, I'm going to put this in C. I'm going to put the bow in C. 6% crit, it's worse than the dagger, it's worse than most of the other items. To put it in comparison, the 6% crit that the bow gives you is already covered by the gloves. The Brawler's Knuckles already has 7% crit, plus 25% physical, plus Miser. The bow has basically 6% crit, and then it benefits ranged builds. That's about it. The inscriptions on it help out skulls like the Hunter. No one cares. You know? No one cares. The real benefit is that it synergizes with the Carlean items. Right? It's probably one of the worst. It's right along there with the armor. I would say the Carlean armor is also C tier. 15% less damage taken is a pretty solid effect to have all round. The only issue is it doesn't really synergize with anyone else. It's just a solid 15%. And I would argue if you're looking for a crutch, this isn't a bad option, but it's also very common and can be replaced with all these other better options up here. Still better than the Quartz. Decent, These two are here mostly because they synergize with the insignia. And they'll carry you a little bit of the way in the beginning, you know? That's about it. You know what I should do? I should totally cover Shade. I should definitely do Shade. Do all the spirits? Yeah, 7 Ice Snows. I should do the spirits. So, Shade is A tier. He's the best spirit in the game. I see my boy Shade in the chat right now. Shade... I know I meme on Shade a lot, but realistically, he's not bad. Shade is actually a pretty decent item, even if you're not doing an Oberon run, and that is specifically why he is in A. The damage that Shade does is good. He only attacks when he goes up near someone, so he's not going to just waste his effect all the time constantly and be a complete butthead. They fixed that a while ago where they improved the AI on some of the spirits, but it also has Necromancy as an inscription. Overall, it's a solid pick. If you're doing a magic build, the more magic items you have, the more damage he does. He does a lot of it, by the way. He's a very powerful little dude. He's very solid. Now, on the flip side, you're going to hate me for doing this. You're going to hate me for doing this. But all of the other spirits are getting dropped square into 50-50. And I can't find the other ones. Where the hell are the other ones? You can see Salamander. Last row. What? I've got it already? Oh, wait, I've got fire. Wait, I've got... Oh, they're all done. Ahaha! I've done it. Doesn't matter. There they all are, right? Smart. I'm very smart. Shut up, Sabotage. Anyway. I'm putting all of the other spirits, Gnome, Salamander, Sylphid, and Undine over here. They are all going into 50-50 along with the Blessing. Simply because this is collectively Oberon, right? I don't really know anyone who wants to take spirits who aren't aiming for Oberon. You take spirits to aim for Oberon. However, Shade, you can justifiably take on his own. Even if you're not building Oberon, Shade could show up in Act 3 in the shop and you might say to yourself, I've got trash. Let me sell this Carlane armor and I'll pick up Shade, right? And he's gonna do work for you. However, virtually no one I know will just take spirits for the sake of having spirits. Especially if you don't have the Blessing. The Blessing is the utmost 50-50 item because on its own, it does nothing. If you've got spirits, it starts giving you some payoff because it only synergizes with spirits. It does literally nothing. Together without elementals, they're all still not even S? No, exactly. Even if you put all 5 of the spirits together and you get Oberon and you don't have the Blessing, that version of Oberon is very weak. And you will be very weak. You need the Blessing. I don't care if you get these 5 down here. You can swap out any one of them for Shade. Just get 5 Fairy Tail with the Blessing. There's your Oberon run. However, if you're not getting Oberon, these are all not worth your time. However, thank you for the Prime. However, with the Blessing there, it works, right? You kind of like it for Blizzard. For Blizzard, it's okay. All of these guys have decent inscriptions. That's the funny thing, except Salamander. But the rest of them have okay inscriptions, but I don't justify taking them for the inscriptions alone, for the same reason that Hatestone is D tier. The only difference with Hatestone is that you don't then need 4 other items to make it do what it wants to do. The problem is with these guys, on their own, they're kinda They win more when you get Oberon out, otherwise, I would just say avoid them, because one of the other problems with the spirits is their bait. You get 2 or 3 spirits and you think to yourself, I'm right there, dude, I'm right there, I'm almost there, and you never see the others. And then you've basically just wasted these slots that could be anything else. If you're doing a magic build, take a staff. You know, take Nether Mana Suppressor, why wouldn't you? I would even argue take goddamn Explosive Ointment over a dead spirit, because if you're getting hit, it'll do something for you. I mean, at the very least, yeah, I would say the spirits aren't all that worth it. Don't pick up any spirits and you end up seeing every single spirit in a row. All that could happen. That's the dream, of course. And what would I like to do? Let's get the last bone out of the way. Let's get Mana Bone out of the way. And you're gonna be mad. You're gonna be mad, but I gave the same courtesy to Swiftness Bone. I have to give the same courtesy to Mana Bone. I'm going to say this immediately. Mana Bone on 2 Mana Skulls, especially if one of them is Skull himself. This thing is S+. This thing eclipses these other guys. It's better than these other guys. Look at it. It's above them. It's up here. However, it has to sit in B tier because I'm giving it the same justice that I gave to Swiftness, and I'm going to assume that it's being held by a regular skull, like a Power Skull or a Speed Skull, and that not a Balanced Skull is holding it. It is still decent item on its own. If you're using a magic build, for example, you're using Water Skull, the magical damage from your rest of your build will still power this thing up. It's still got Tactics on it. It's still powerful. It's still got Blizzard on it. Still decent. However, you really do need Balanced Skulls to really boost the effectiveness of this. And specifically, with Little Bone, with actual Skull himself, God tier. Speaking of which, I'm talking about him right now. Let's just get the other elephant in the room out of the way. Magis Necklace. Magis Necklace, I unironically want to put in A. I know that might be a biased pick. Like a very biased pick. But I still think Magis Necklace is a good item for the skulls that really benefit from it, right? So, I'm specifically saying that this is anyone holding it, not just Skull. We know that with Little Skull holding this, it's triple S tier. It's off the screen, it's that good. However, for some skulls, like all the others out there, Prisoner can use this. All of the other magic dudes like Paladin, Lich, Reaper, they can all use this, right? It gets value. It gets value. It's not hard to get a build that benefits from spamming abilities, right? You get Infinite Bone, you get all these other things, it works. However, I'm putting it in A because if we take all of that away, It still does good damage. It's still an auto turret that hits things for you whenever you do an ability. Still decent. There might be some bias there. I would say realistically it might go B tier if we're really looking at it. But I'm putting it in A because I love it. Right? I love it. What are the inscriptions? One is Volcano. That's all I know. I forget the other one. The inscriptions aren't worth it. If it had good inscriptions, if this had tactics on it, it'd be there. If it had tactics, I'd put it in S. But it doesn't, so I'm putting it in A. But I love this item. It might be biased. I don't care. I'm putting it in there. What's not biased, though, and I need to get this done, Gunpowder Sword. Shoutouts to the first box item. Gunpowder Sword. Might be best item in the game. Gunpowder Sword might be this. It might be the best item, period. Better than Kyrian. Better than Kyrian. Second box? Oh, true. Priest Robe was first. Might be better than Kyrian. Simply because it synergizes with crits, and it has no internal cooldown. None. It has no internal cooldown. It's broken. If you go back and you look at the old days of this item right here, Explosive Arrow, and you saw my original Explosive Arrow mummy runs, you know how good this item was. It was so good that they nerfed it. They gave it a 0.5 second internal cooldown, the same as Thief Armor. Gunpowder Sword got away with murder because it just doesn't have an internal cooldown. If you look at my most powerful Prisoner run, where I kill the hero in like less than a second because he steps on 2 traps and dies, that damage is mostly Gunpowder Sword. Every single time you crit, Gunpowder Sword procs. It scales off of physical boosting effects. If you have Troll, if you've got Thieves, it doesn't matter. You don't even need lots of crit, because Skul baseline, without any crit boosting items, gives you lots of critical effects, especially if you're spamming the screen, right? Especially if you're spamming the screen with lots of damage. It carries through. It carries through all sorts of power. It is incredibly good. Watch them nerf this after the tier list. I think they're aware of how powerful Gunpowder is. If they're not, then maybe. But it is dangerously powerful. I mean, hell, I would argue unnerf Explosive Arrow. I want the good old days of Explosive Arrow back. Explosive Arrow, I'm going to put in C. Because, no, you know what, D. I'm putting it in D. Nah, maybe C. I'm going to leave it in D. I'm going to leave it in D. You know what? Base crit's still like 15%? Exactly. But I'm going to put it in D because Explosive Arrow used to be the flavor. If you haven't seen the Mummy run with the Explosive Arrow build, God, that was a good time. But they nerfed it. It only triggers once every 0.5 seconds now, which doesn't seem like a big nerf, but for a skull like Mummy who spams shots constantly, kind of sucks. It works with skulls like Mummy, as I said. Hunter, it works off of other projectiles. So Thief Armor, for example, it works kind of well. The problem is the damage isn't really good, and it's not worth an entire slot on its own. It has some benefits with ranged builds along with the bow, but it's kind of poopy, right? It's kind of poopy. If you had old Explosive Arrow plus Gunpowder Sword, that would be broken. If you could pair Gunpowder with old Explosive Arrow with some good crit and put Thief Armor on and just throw, oh god, it'd be so good. But that's why this is nerfed. This will get nerfed eventually. Gunpowder can't stay this good forever. It'll get nerfed eventually. Now, moving down, where is the other victim of the big 0.5 second cooldown nerf? Still good, but not the best anymore. Thief Armor! I'm gonna put Thief Armor up here in A. I still believe Thief Armor is a workhorse. I believe right next to Magis Necklace, this thing is solid. Solid. Thief Armor works beautifully in most of the builds that it works with. Mostly speed skulls, right? Low A? Yeah, it'd be low A. The same with Magis Necklace. If there was like an in-between B+ tier, I'd probably put it in B+, along with Thieves, like Magis Necklace, Thief Armor, B+ along with the Brawler's Knuckle, right? But I'm going to be objective and try and force them into a situation here. So, the beauty of this is that Thief Armor has a secondary effect where Thief Armor will fire off a larger shuriken if it's a critical strike, and that larger shuriken, as the opposite to Magis Necklace, has piercing. Magis Necklace's fireballs don't pierce, so it's less good at handling big, swarming rooms of enemies. Not Magis Necklace, Thief Armor, though, chunks through rooms of enemies. Big shurikens getting launched all over the place. You want to see lots of shurikens? Put this thing on a werewolf run. You'll see shurikens all over the screen. Stick it on ninja to be thematic. You can even stick it on samurai. Just get a little bit of extra oomph from his basic attack. The 0.5-second cooldown is annoying, but it's still a really strong actual triggered effect as opposed to Explosive Arrow, which most skulls can't benefit from even getting this. Ooh, that's scary. Whereas, at the very least, this works constantly. Explosive Arrow, you need a projectile. This, everyone can benefit from this. It can save characters that don't have basic pierce. It can be really good for stuff like that. It's also really good for anyone that does pierce already, like Pike. You put this on Pike and you start dashing through dudes, shurikens everywhere. It's great, it's wonderful. It's, however, not broken. It's just good. You might end up selling this the same way that you would sell Magis Necklace or the Insignia, but early game, buy it. I would argue just buy it. If you get this in Act 1, take it. You'll keep it until at least Act 4. Maybe Act 3 if you start to get some really good luck. You know? Now, who is next? Ah! I kind of want to put Prince's Box in D, as opposed to 50-50. Like, Clone Stamp is a 50-50 tier. I think this should go on 50-50, but I really want to put the Prince Box in D. Like, I think this is actually just bad. The Clone Stamp, at the very least, will give you the same inscription, but doubled. Whereas the Prince's Box will just give you 2 rando inscriptions. It gives you a little bit of life. It's, but more often than not, those 2 inscriptions aren't good. Or worse, they don't synergize with each other. And you end up with, like, 1 blizzard, 1 static, or you end up with 1 piercing wind, and then a random necromancy. It's like, whoa, it's crazy. You get random stuff. However, the random stuff isn't that good. I would rather get a Clone Stamp with 2 tactics or 2 necromancy than get a Prince's Box with 1 volcano plus a necromancy. That's just me being me. They're almost the same item, though. Just a small difference. But I don't mind either way. Now, I want to take this because I forgot all about putting this up here with its friends. The Wind Armor. Now, the Wind Armor, I have a very big love-hate relationship with this because of Mirage and parries, but beyond that, Wind Armor is godlike, right? Wind Armor is fantastic. It's not quite S tier, but it sits right along here as some of the 5 best defensive items in the entire game. Because this single-handedly helps fix Power Skulls, right? It has a chance to give you an extra dash. On Power Boys that only have a single dash and are prone to getting hit, yes, you can't rely on this, but hey, there's a 30% chance you're going to mash your dash button and get an extra dash or 2 and avoid that attack that otherwise would have already hit you. Go for it. In addition to that, it has Mirage on it, which gives you a free pass on getting hit. It feeds into survivability. It's really good. And single-handedly makes Pike a god, exactly. In the hands of some skulls, it just makes them better. In the hands of Kyrian, it's disgusting, because you can turn into a dash build no matter who you are, and just get really big dashings. It also is really good for speed runs, but that's neither here nor there. It is just generally a really good item. Even on regular skulls that have double dashes, put it on Werewolf, put it on Skull, put it on Ninja, anyone. Ninja with 3 dashes plus more? Makes Genie less useless, there you go. It doesn't matter who you stick it on. Someone's going to benefit from this. It's a good item. I would say it's objectively not as powerful as these 4 put together, but this on its own does a lot. These ones here kind of like having each other. This just works. Just works. It's good. Something that works a lot less is Coward's Cape, which I'm tossing between C or D, to be honest. Maybe D? Maybe D? Is Coward's Cape a D? I think Coward's Cape might be a D. It might be. I'm thinking about it's like a high D. I mean, yeah, it's probably better than all of this stuff because it has some utility, but ooh, yeah, it's not great. It's money only. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Coward's Cape. So the idea behind the Coward's Cape is that when you're surrounded by enemies, it improves your dash. It makes you go further. It lowers the cooldown. It makes your dash more useful. The problem is, I don't really know anyone who really does that. Who gets into a room with a lot of enemies and just starts mashing dash? I mean, it's got synergy with Pike, or like a Kyrian run maybe, but you don't really need to do that. I don't see how this is useful outside of aggressively specific situations. Otherwise, your best bet is start swinging. If you've got 4 or more enemies around you, chances are most of them are just basic grunts that you just button mash your way through anyway. I don't see how this has much utility beyond its inscription. I think this is another Mirage item similar to Wind Armor, but whereas Wind Armor has universal utility against rooms of enemies, bosses, adventurer fights, it helps power skulls get better. This doesn't really do any of that. It doesn't really help against bosses that much, because most boss fights are less than 4. In fact, all of them except for the Chimera fight. And even then, there's only a few extra enemies in the Chimera fight for seconds before they die to their own natural causes or to your attack. Yeah, it doesn't really work. It's a room clearing item that doesn't really help you clear rooms. What happened between Coward's Cape and Wind Armor? They had a falling out. You know, the Wind Armor is a full set of armor, and the cape is just a cape, so clearly this is better, because it protects more, does more. You know? That's just the way it works. Oh yeah, okay, cool. Let's stick another D tier in here. So, probably king of D tier, the root. The absolute state of this item, right? This is somehow worse than the Dark Quartz, right? It is worse than the Dark Quartz. I mean, look at this. Look at this. It is worse than the Dark Quartz. The problem here is the Dark Quartz gives you more maximum life, right? I've already gone over why that's not the best thing to have. You can get max life from other effects, right? You can get max life from a lot of stuff. It's not a problem to have max life. An item dedicated solely to that is the issue. It needs to do something else. The problem with the root is it doesn't even do that. The root, once you get low on life, you consume the root, it's gone, and you get a small heal. It's the equivalent of having a potion that you automatically chug when you get low on life, and saying it out loud like that, on paper, it doesn't sound bad. The problem is, this thing is money wasted. This is like a solid, what, 350 gold, 400 gold or so that just disappears? You could sell this for money, use that money, and buy any other better item. That 400 gold could go towards buying any one of these defensive boys if you found them. It could go towards buying a thief armor. You could buy a mana engine. You could buy a Carlean armor, which at least does more than what this is doing. If you're low on life, I mean, hell, the money could be spent buying food that heals you for more and also gives you passive effects that help you in the next rooms. It's just not good. Yeah, where's the Yggdrasil shield? Is this it? Yeah, here's the Yggdrasil shield. Right, so the shield that you get from Yggdrasil as well belongs here. Ahead of the root, admittedly, but still. This is the guidance, right? The guidance is one of the 2 unique drops that Yggdrasil can give. It's not good for the same reason. It gives you a 40 absorption shield. Once the shield runs out, it's destroyed and you lose that money. In all of my videos, you see me sell the item, whether it's immediately or as soon as I start getting touched. I don't want to lose this money. It is money wasted. I could sell it, get some cash. Both of them. They're not worth it. Is Voodoo in a similar tier? Ah, funny enough, Voodoo Doll is not in a similar tier. Where is Voodoo Doll? Voodoo Doll? I saw it a second ago. Where the hell are you? Whenever I take them, like, it's all shuffling, so now I'm losing the place where they originally were. There it is. I knew it was down the bottom somewhere. Voodoo Doll is like, I'm gonna say C. Voodoo for me is C. Wait, you know what? No, you know what? Voodoo Doll is a 50-50. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. It's, yeah, Seven Ice, I'm saying it's a 50-50. Seven Ice called it right. Voodoo Doll is one of those items that you don't want to take if you really don't need it. It's literally a wasted slot. However, it can also be godlike, right? Voodoo Doll is another life. Not only is it another life, when you resurrect with your second life, you get a big damage boost. It also comes with Necromancy, a fantastic inscription. So this item has some pros. The cons are that it's a legendary item, which I get it, it's a second life. Getting a free life is worthy of being legendary status. The issue is, you either really need it or you don't. If you're already losing, say you're down to low life on your first life, or you're on your second life and you're like, oh my god, I'm about to lose the run. Just picking up Voodoo Doll is the equivalent of having like an extra 40 or 50 life, plus a 60 extra magic damage boost on top of it when you come back. So you go into a fight, you get killed, you come back to life, alright, go mode, hit all the buttons. We've got a damage boost. We need to nuke this boss, this room, before things get out of hand. The problem is, because it's so circumstantial, it's in 50-50. Depending on who you are, it's either A tier, or it's D, or even like an F tier. It depends on who you are. It's either good or it's not, you know? Yeah, it's also Necro. Necro's decent. And it sells for $8.50, so I mean, half the time, if you get this as a reward from a chest, you might want to just sell it and get that $850 straight away. But if you're losing, keep it maybe. Keep it. It does more for you than the root will, right? It does a lot more than the root will. Because at the very least, when you die and lose a life, you do a little explosion of damage to nearby enemies. I'm pretty sure that still procs with this. Diorite's a 50-50. Yeah, you know what? Let's put Diorite in here as well. Diorite is also a 50-50 because it's... when it works, it's amazing. When it doesn't work, it's trash. So Diorite Circlet will give you a 100% magic boost every time a quintessence attack hits an enemy. Now, for some quintessences like Swanezio, Shadow Knights, some of the really powerful legendary quintessences out there, Archdemon, this effect won't trigger very often, which means that for the majority of the time, Diorite isn't doing anything. However, as we know, there are some quintessences out there, like the Imps, like Ravenlord, like Lieweasel, there are many others, even Kobold, that have low, short cooldowns or have a secondary effect, like Lieweasel's dash attack. Ifrit's not bad for it either. Ifrit's pretty short cooldown. These guys are able to be used frequently enough that you can benefit from the effect of Diorite Circlet, and in a lot of those cases, Diorite Circlet is the compensation you need to make up for the fact that you might be using a less than powerful quintessence. I'm okay with not taking Diorite Circlet when I've got Swanezio, Shadow Knights, or even Banshee and things like that, because they're already strong as it is. But if I've got Kobold, if I've got Ifrit, Lieweasel, I might be using some of these lesser used dudes, or even, you know, something stupid that I don't really want to use, like Harpy. You can get good rewards from this. But it is a 50-50 because you have no idea what you're going to get. Imp is one of the go-tos. Imp and Ravenlord are the go-tos for this thing. And Imp doesn't do a lot as it is anyway, so I mean, yeah, you can get a lot out of it. Now, what did you want me to do? The bow items? We've got Hunter's Bow next. So Hunter's Bow... I don't want to make Hunter's Bow a 50-50. I think Hunter's Bow is a B. I would say the Hunter's Bow is a B purely because you need a lot of crits to benefit from the effects. If you're sitting on base level crit and you've got like 15% crit rate, this thing isn't doing that much for you. However, if you've got other critical items, whether it be the Bandit's Dagger over here, or if you've got the Knuckles, especially if you've got Thieves, we'll get to Thieves later, it becomes a lot better and it starts snowballing. This is like a snowballer's item. If you've already got good crit, this just takes your already good damage and skyrockets it. Problem for me is, if you don't already have crit, it kind of doesn't do much. It's very weak, objectively. However, if you've still got the base level of like 10 to 15% crit, it's doing something, it's not bad. It's kind of like having a baseline bonus swiftness. Like I said, bonus swiftness on its own, it'll still trigger from crit effects, and it's still a B. I think it's the same justification, right? They're both Bs. Do Thieves? I should do Thieves. I mentioned it. I said it by name. So Thieves is right up here. This doesn't really make sense. This doesn't matter. This is objective right here about which comes first. So there are 3 items that are like the best items in my opinion, but Thieves is one of them. Thieves Black Steel Dagger is just, period, one of the most usable best items in the game. Gunpowder Sword might be one of the most powerful because it takes physical builds and breaks them beyond belief. Thieves is one of the best items in the game simply because it works for any build except maybe Samurai. And even then, Samurai still likes it. You just don't get to use it with his big final cut. His single slash. His single slash or his full moon slash already do crits, so you don't really need to worry about having Thieves. But besides that, everybody else, every single skull, can all benefit from having 40% more critical strike rate baseline. Are you meowing? My cat is engaged with combat against the floor. What are you fighting? Invisible ninjas? But that's the idea behind Thieves. It's just such a powerful item. I get it all the time. If I see it, I take it. There is rarely an instance where I won't take this. It comes with Madness. It comes with... Well, Piercing Wind isn't really that much to sneeze at, but Madness plus Thieves. just to feed into the fact that if you've got some more attack speed, you can keep the effect active for longer. It's just good, right? It's just good. You like to see it. Now, what else can I... Yes, okay, so ritual stuff. Now, the problem with ritual stuff is I have to give it the same treatment as the rest of these items, where I have to assume, same as the bandit knife, because ritual stuff is the equivalent of the bandit knife when being used by speed skulls. So ritual stuff, I think, might still be an A. Because ritual stuff is a big, chonky 50% magic boost. Right? 50% plus tactics, it's basically a 55% boost. That is huge. That is an enormous magical boost. This item can single-handedly take a weak magic build and make it really strong out of nowhere. Right? Way too gold efficient, I know. And the benefit is that if you've got a balanced skull, it reduces their cooldown timer by 45%. It gives you a 45% cooldown increase. Which is shenanigans. That's 15% more than this. On its own. It's huge. It also synergizes hugely with Nether Mana Suppressor. The ritual stuff is a win more item. You get it, and whatever you're already doing, you're doing it now just way, way better. Way, way better. But, to be objective, I have to say that we're going to have this being equipped on a non-balance skull that does use magic, so something like Water Skull. Just to say that it's an A tier on its own. If a balanced skull has this, it's an S tier. Easy. Easy S tier. Easy. It's also rare. You can get this at the start of a run. It's exactly the same as how the virus is a rare, and makes no sense, by the way. It is the only rare item in S tier. That's why it's so busted. It's so powerful despite being a rare. Ritual stuff is also rare. And I think it belongs in A. Going along there with A, you know what? I'm just going to put this here. Bam. Demonomicon has the amazing benefits of increasing swap potential, like Bone Hourglass. It also has 55% magic, and it has... it has necromancy. Like, why does it have so many good things on it? It has so many good things on it. It's ridiculous. Most balanced skulls are magic anyway. Exactly. So, I mean, regardless of what kind of balanced skull you're doing, it's most likely going to be a magic boy, and it's most likely going to benefit from the staff. Most likely. But yes, the Demonomicon, very good, very powerful. It's not quite an S tier. Necromancy, swap shenanigans, 55% magic. It's just thick. It's just thick. And speaking of just thick, right up here, along with it, Ceremonial Dagger. Now, Ceremonial Dagger goes in the A tier. I would say that it's very circumstantial, similar to these guys when it comes to crit synergy, because what Sea Dagger wants from you, what Ceremonial Dagger wants, is for you to crit. However, Ceremonial Dagger also comes with 5% crit baked in. So it's already giving you comparative crit to the bow. This is why I tell you the bow drops off really hard, because you've got items like this, or items like this, that just make the bow sad, because it doesn't even do its job that well. Even the dagger does more. Right? Now, the Ceremonial Dagger has 55% magic damage. It triggers every time you land a crit. It gives you more crit. It has tactics on it. It's the same as these two when it comes to just doing more. It's a win more magic item. Ideally, you want Sea Dagger, you want Demonomicon, you want Ritual Stuff, you want Nether Mana Suppressor, and you want the regular staff, and maybe even Draftstone. Not Draftstone, Hatestone. And you've already got a disgusting magic build. Throw in Mana Bone, you're golden. You're finished, that's it. You're already powerful. Throw in a Thieves for the fun of it. Finished. Go wipe them out. Flame Flask Alchemist, go do it. What can I throw in there next? What else can I do? For C tier, C tier's underpopulated. Here you go. C tier's underpopulated. We'll throw a C tier item in here. The Grace. The Grace, I say, is a C tier item. It's worthy of being in C along with these other Carlean items, simply because 25% cooldown increase is a very nice effect. It also comes with some pretty good inscriptions. Problem is, those inscriptions aren't that easy to build. At the same time, 25% is good. It's not quite as good as the Mana Engine. And the Mana Engine feeds into itself, like I said, giving you Mana Tech. This doesn't give you anything else for cooldown that well. But it's still really good as far as a C tier item. It's not that bad, right? It's pretty damn nice. I think it's worthy of being a C tier. I don't think there's anything else to really say about it, though. What about the Chimera thing? The Chimera Madness thing? Oh, the core. Ah, the core. So the core... if I'm gonna stick the core somewhere... I don't want to say and do what I really want to say and do, but I kinda... It's climbing. Oh, dear. What if the core is A tier? I think the core is A tier, because on one hand, it has Madness on it, which to get a Madness item from a boss drop is pretty ridiculous. However, the core gives you an incredibly big physical boost. It's a big chunky boost to physical damage. It's only really beat out by the Hope Slasher in terms of just a raw chunk. I mean, you could put the Hero's Holy Sword on the list, but the Hero's Holy Sword is a 1-second buff. This is just stupid. The caveat is that you take 30% more damage at maximum efficiency. So if you're using Berserker and you're just swinging into someone, you're going to kill them quick. It's going to be a race. Who dies first, me or them? It's a lesser, slower activating orc, basically. Except it doesn't make you take double damage, it's just 30%, you know? You get 100% more damage, you don't take as much damage, it's a little bit worse in terms of how long it takes, but it's better in terms of you don't lose as hard. That playstyle being excessive violence? Yes, it locks you into excessive violence. I'd say, depending on who you are, you might put core in C or D. If you're someone who sees this and just goes, nope, I don't want it. I understand you, but at the same time, I'm the kind of person who would put Orc in S tier as a quintessence because I see it and I go, oh yeah, it's violence time. And I don't care about the drawback, I just care about that big chunky, big number that comes out. That's why I think this is an A tier for me. On the other hand, something that I'm going to put down in objectively... do I put the Fang in C or D? Does the Fang belong in C or does it belong in D? This one's kind of hard. Fang is C, you guys think C as well? Okay, we can kind of leave it in C. Yeah, it's kind of like a really good example of a legendary boss drop that's just, You get it for Chapter 4 enemies, which have a lot of health. True. At the very least, the Fang is dropped right before Chapter 4, where it has some utility, unlike... stupid book down here. The problem with this is, I guess... The justification is if you're already doing a really big amount of damage and you don't care about this, just pass it up, just sell it. 800 gold, easy. If you're the kind of player who's doing a lot of small bits of damage, like you're playing, say, a king physical run where you're just swinging your sword a lot, or werewolf, stuff like that, maybe this activates. Maybe this activates for you. You might, you know, get some good use out of it for the adventurer fight. I know the adventurer fight dies pretty hard in this effect. It's a good way to get past, say, the archer girl, if you're having a hard time with the Act 4 adventurer fight. However, it's just okay. It's nothing super amazing. I'd rather let it sit in C tier. What else have we got down here that I can work with? Have I got... Oh yeah, gold incense. Why haven't I put the gold incense in here? Gold incense, I would feel really stupid not sticking it up here with its other money-making companion. The gold incense is another win more item. You get gold incense nice and early if you can, preferably Act 1 and or 2. And it just runs. It just runs away. It just runs away with money. It increases your passive income by a certain percentage, like Miser. But it also gives you a little bit of life, just to be friendly to you. So having the gold incense along with the Carlayan insignia, and if you can manage to get the third Miser, that'd be really good too. But this just works. I often keep the gold incense burner until I've run out of options to sell besides it. So it's often like the last item I get rid of, because just getting that passive income bonus all the way through as far as you can go, those are extra re-rolls, those are extra items that you would otherwise not be able to afford. That picture frame NPC that gives you an item for money, it covers that expense for you with that extra bit of gold that you've made. I think it's definitely worthy of being an A tier. Master Fighter and Brawler? Oh yeah, let's cover Master Fighter and Brawler. So, I don't want to say that Master Fighter is a 50-50, but I'm gonna put it in A. People are saying Master Fighter is S tier. The only reason I stick Fighter in A tier is I have to be fair and say that Master Fighter doesn't work for a lot of the game when you're fighting rooms. However, Master Fighter is indisputably one of the best boss and adventurer slaying items in the game. It's really S. I know in my heart it's S, but I can't in good conscience say that it's that good when it doesn't work all the time. At the very least, all the S tiers have something in common. They work basically all the time. Virus is the only exception that doesn't work on boss fights, but the caveat to that is that the virus effect is so universally busted. Like, it obliterates rooms. It single-handedly makes speedrun world records possible. It does so much on its own, whereas Master Fighter is a big beat stick. It's a really big beat stick. I just don't think it's S tier yet. It either works or doesn't, basically. It either works or doesn't. When it, like, the fact that it works on all the boss fights, this is a boss slayer. Just take it. Just take it. However, objectively speaking, I would say that Master Brawler... I'll stick it in B. I'll be fair. I'll stick it in B. I was going to put it in C. Master Brawler is the opposite. This gives you a big damage bonus against, what is it, 4 or more? It's not 3 or more, right? It's 4 or more. 4 or more. So, the fact that it works this way means that for all of your rooms, it gets really good value in Area 4, in Act 4, when you get to the top. To get rid of some of those big, heavy rooms with lots of big enemies, it just helps a little bit, you know. It can even help in Act 3 against the lab guys, where you've got lots of minions all over the screen. The issue with it is that because it's so specifically locked in to having to require multiple enemies, it doesn't help you on some of the harder fights in the game, which are the bosses and the adventurer fights. So, let's say, for example, you're up against the 4th adventurer fight against the archer girl, nothing. Joan, nothing. The hero, nothing. The sisters, nothing. It doesn't help you on any of these fights. Will it help you clear rooms? Yes, but rooms aren't always the big issue. I mean, you might walk into a maid room in Act 2 and go, oh my god, I need Master Brawler. But rarely does that really happen, to me at least, as well. Like, I don't really value Brawler as much as Fighter. I want to kill the hero faster. I want to kill Joan faster. A room full of grunts? I could take my time with it, really. I mean, more often than not, you're going to 1 or 2 shot a room of grunts anyway. Making them die even quicker? I don't mind as much. Unless it's a snowballing effect, which it doesn't really snowball. Snowball is things like this. And even then, this is in B tier as well. So, I mean, I'm okay with it being here. Box of metals and stone. I could do that. So, those are 50-50s. Where are they? So, the metal box is a 50-50. And where is... Yeah, right, there we go. So, the metal box and the stone, these both belong in 50-50. They are amazing effects. I agree that they're really good. The problem is they are entirely dependent on what part of the game you get them in. If you get either of these in Act 1, God tier, fantastic. You just beat the game, dude. Get metal box early, your physical run is a shoo-in. Get the stone early, it's a shoo-in, dude. You're done. You see any of these in Act 4 and your heart breaks. Because you really need to get, like, the metal box before Act 3, and you really need to get the stone before Act 2 so you can benefit from the double kill on the sisters. Otherwise, these things are just... It's too much of a flip. If you see them at the wrong time, sucks. If you see them at the right time, yay. Too circumstantial. It's kind of like the spirits and a bit like the Voodoo Doll. You really need this to come about at the right time. Now, I know people have been asking for it. Let's get this out of the way. The wheel is an S+ item, right? The wheel is simply one of the best items in the entire game. We love the wheel. The wheel murders entire rooms of dudes instantly. Instantly. It's done. Wheel literally Z tier. Look at the wheels. Yes, the wheel. Objectively speaking, though, I would even go as far as to say the wheel is actually a 50-50. If I'm being real, make a new tier and just fill it with wheels. And all of those wheels are in S. Realistically speaking, the wheel is a 50-50. Some builds can really benefit from the wheel. Mutant builds benefit from the wheel. Skulls that like to swap frequently, like Living Armor, benefit from the wheel, even though physical and magic don't want to really pair, but yeah. It's nice damage, it runs over enemies, it's a fun meme, it works with some, it doesn't work with others, it's too circumstantial. It's one of those effects that's like, if I don't put it in 50-50, I put it in D, and then I feel bad. So I'm just going to stick it here and say it belongs in 50-50. You either love it or you hate it. Sometimes it gets stuck on a boss like Chimera and does way more damage than it should. Other times, you know, you're fighting a big long room, the wheel goes off in one direction and you never see it again because it doesn't have a chance to come back. Inner Malice and Flame next. Where are they? There they are. So Inner Malice and Flame. These are two mutant synergy boys. I'm actually... I'm debating C or D with these guys. Like, I could put both of them in C and say that that's okay and not the worst decision in the world. I could also put them in D and say, yeah, just live there. I think I might leave them in C because they actually do more than a lot. Like, I don't... To be fair, I just took a look down and saw that Bottled Embers is in D, and I'm like, I can't put these in with Bottled Embers. That's not fair. Anyway, Inner Malice and Inner Flame. These are both basically the same thing. When you swap, you get, 4 seconds of bonus physical or bonus magical damage. Neither have inscriptions that really sail them up any higher than anything else. Very bomber-centric, yes. The Inner Fire is very bomber-centric, or Living Armor-centric. You can swap into Living Armor and do one of his big attacks, like fill the screen with flames. You can swap into, say, Lich and immediately fire off a Death Trap. For the Inner Malice, you could, say, swap into Yaksha, and it boosts his big stomp. Inner Malice, I think, works very, very well because it synergizes with the axes and a lot of the swap stuff. Inner Flame synergizes with Raven's Feather. And, like, these things work. They have synergy. They just don't... You know, they're not doing it that well on their own. You really need other items to make them pop. And you need specific builds to make them pop. Otherwise, you're not really gonna do too much. You said Feather, now rate it? Okay, the Feather... I think Feather is B. I think Feather is B, and someone is going to be bothered by me putting Feather in B, right? Someone will hate me putting Feather in B, but I say Feather is B, at least maybe like a high or a mid-tier B, because once again, it works really well with some builds, and then otherwise, it doesn't really do that much. It is really high damage on a swap. It works very well with items like the Axe. It still synergizes with the Axe because you get a Gravity Vortex effect. And it also scales off magic damage. It does pretty good. Inscriptions, also not that fine. You know? Also not that fine. Not that bad, I should say. Also not that bad. It's perfectly fine. However, you need to build around it. You need a mutant build, which the weird thing is that Feather doesn't have mutant on it anymore, which was a really big nerf to the item. So, I mean, I'd say B. It's good. I wouldn't pass this up if I had to get rid of something down here, right? If I was getting rid of an Inner Malice, I'd get one of these. If I wasn't using it, if I was getting rid of, say, a bow, I would 100% take this. If I was ditching any of this stuff in D, of course I would take it. Of course. Now, who have we got left? Oh, the ring. This is easy. I'll just take the ring. The ring can go in the same tier with the staff for the exact same reason that it's with the staff. The ring is just budget staff. It doesn't have the same secondary inscription, but they both have tactics. They're both 30% beat sticks. The only real difference is the staff synergizes with insignia, but the ring synergizes with another weapon, so they're both basically the same item. They just have, you know, different synergizing effects. But it belongs in B. That's it. It just goes there. The ring isn't bad. You take it for the tactics and the magic. Here's a 50-50 for you. The Hunter's Boots. A dash item. Oh no! Dash item? Dash item in 50-50 tier? Yes, 50-50 tier, because this thing on, say, Genie, on Pike, if it's paired with the Wind Armor, we know that this thing is stupid. We know it's dumb. We know it's dumb. However, it's very specific to who you use it with to get the most bang for your buck. Otherwise, it's just a tiny bit of extra passive damage that doesn't really do that much later in the game, and it becomes kind of weak. But there, it belongs in 50-50. It belongs 50-50. What, the sword? I can do the sword. Where's the sword? I saw it here somewhere. Solar Sword. Solar Sword is also a bit of a budget Carlean sword. The issue is it's still not as good. They're both like each other. The staff and the ring, the sword and this sword. The Carleans synergize with each other. The ring and the sword, when they're put together, they have some kind of neat synergy with what they give you with their Moon and Sun effect. However, the harmony I don't really chase the harmony very much. It's okay if it's there, but if it's not, who cares? The sword's just B tier. It's just a B tier sword. Another circumstantial one that people are going to get mad at me about maybe is the Hero's Holy Sword. It's another dash item, and you can probably see a pattern here with the dash build items because dash build in itself is also very circumstantial. If you get this on Pike, godlike. Godlike on Pike. It's built for Pike. It's designed for Pike. Which also, where is it? Mithril Armor. It's built for Pike. It's designed for Pike. It's basically a Pike item. Both of these items are Pike items. The issue here is, with the Hero's Holy Sword, you can dash and then throw an attack, and it will get that benefit, but you've got to dash and then throw an attack. Say you're playing King, you can dash and then do a big broadsword swing. You probably get that damage added to it. If you're playing Berserker, and you dash and you do his big giant axe attack, that buff runs out before the giant axe really hits. You need a lot of attack speed to make that axe come out faster. However, it just doesn't work for anyone else that well, nor the Mithril Armor. The Mithril Armor, you need to be dashing constantly to keep this buff up and active, and the best skull for that is Pike. Not many other skulls really care about this at all. It's just there. The cooldown of the damage boost is so low you can't even do much damage unless you're using it for the dash damage. Basically, it's just not that good. Something else that is really good though, and I can't believe I've forgotten to put this up here: Infinite Boner. Infinite Boner! Infinite Boner is S tier because every single goddamn skull in the entire game, except for one, which is Champion, loves this item. Champion is the only one that gets no benefit from this. However, much the same as how Samurai doesn't really like this, at the very least Samurai gets some crit. Champion gets nothing from this. Absolutely nothing. However, everyone else, as we know, just a 30% chance flat to reset the cooldown of your ability immediately. Disgusting. And I don't care who you are. It could be double death traps. It could be extra flame flasks. It could be extra parries. It could mean resetting the cooldown of your dash pike buff ability, your forward march, just to get more forward march in there. You could be resetting the cooldown of your summons on recruit. Having more abilities to use is a massive damage increase. Is it a bit of a coin flip with a 30% chance? Yes, but when it works so well. The reward vastly outweighs the proc rate. It's just S. It's just S. It's S. It's done. What else do we have down here? The tree seed. Here we go. The tree comes up here in S as well. We're going to put the tree up here in S. The tree is just objectively one of the best things you can get in the entire game. The tree is honestly one of the top 3 best things you can find in the game, in my humble opinion. I would say Thieves' Black Steel Dagger and the tree are the 2 best universal items that work for everyone. Infinite Bone is probably like the next best universal item. But if you're looking at raw power and how broken something is, Gunpowder Sword is still one of the most broken items in the entire game. But these 3 right here, this trio, everyone loves these. Except for like the 1 or 2 examples for each one. But the tree seed, you have to get so lucky to get the tree seed off the Yggdrasil fight. But once you do, and you activate this tree, the tree does everything for you. It's damage reduction, it's damage dealt for both physical and magical skulls, and a damage reduction on top. It's just a big stat stick. It just makes you powerful. It just makes you powerful, dude. It's amazing. Hello, Cyro. How are you, dude? Now, what else can I throw in there? Pain and Despair. Alright, Pain and Despair is going up here in S tier. Pain and Despair, as we know, it's the best madness item. It is the most powerful madness item. It is disgusting. It has a ramping attack speed effect in addition to a baseline attack speed effect in addition to madness. If you want to swing fast and play fast, Pain and Despair, there's not much else to say about it. It's just God tier. It's amazing. Take it. It's good. What was it? The axe duo? I forget which axe is which now. This is not the swap axe, is it? This is the swap axe. Because I'm not going to lie, the axe that swaps with power skulls and launches them into the air is the better axe. However, I have to be objective and do the same thing I've done with the rest of the items that need specific skulls to hold them. in order to get extra benefit. As we know, if a Speed Skull holds the dagger, they get more power out of it. If Balanced Guys hold this, they get more power. Same with a lot of these items. If Power Boys hold the axe, they get more life, they get a cool swapping effect. It's good. Outside of a Power Skull holding it, if you give this to, say, a Physical King run or Werewolf, still a solid B. It's still a solid B. They do a lot of extra damage. 40 and 35% more physical attack is not bad. It's not bad. It's still really strong. Still really strong. And like I said, a lot of these guys here that have good inscriptions, like the sword, if you've got the sword on a build that has like 5 or more courage, then it's going to outscale the axes. But just as a base item, the axes are fair. You can get them nice and early and get some good physical boost out of it. They're good. Speaking of okay, but nothing too amazing, the bomb. And where's the other one? I know the other one's here somewhere. It curses me frequently. Where is it? The boots. Bomb and the boots. These two feel like opposites of each other. Or rather like, you know, siblings. Because they both give you 25% bonus to physical attack, but they both also have some sort of a secondary fun effect. The boots do more damage when you land on enemies. And the bomb just drops a bomb when you double jump. That's basically it. Besides that, it's just 25% more physical damage. They're not bad. They're fine. They just don't have the extra oomph that the sword has. That both the swords have an extra oomph to them. The axes do more raw damage and have better effects for their counterparts. These are just they're okay. They can sit there. Where'd I put the wings? Okay, so Sylphid Wings is a 50-50. Sylphid Wings is a hard 50-50 because, to me, the wings... the wings do so much, but at the same time, you don't need them. The wings is one of those things that you take if you really want it. However, you can run the entire game, not get the wings, and you're perfectly fine. Based on the rarity, it's also okay. After Power Skulls, that's kind of why I'm making it a 50-50. You see, Wind Armor is a rare item that is far more accessible to a Power Skull than the wings are. And at the very least, getting the wings is a lot more difficult, but at the same time, getting a hold of the wings is kind of just, like I said, one of those things you don't have to do. Is it nice to have? Yes. Is it giving you a big combat boost? Not really. It helps low mobility dudes, but it kind of comes down to player preference. If you really want this, yes. If you don't, no. Are we counting rarity though? Unfortunately, yes, simply because rarity dictates ease of access. And it also helps ruin when you get them and how good they are. My justification here is that you won't see the wings very often, and when you do see it, you probably don't need it. It's one of those late to the party kind of items. If you get it really early, then it's great. Use it. However, should wings be unique? I would argue wings could be unique and still be fair. I would argue you could make this unique and still be fair. It's a great effect. I love the effect. It's really good. It speeds you up in the air. I mean, realistically, this is a really good item for Gargoyle. Like, this is the Gargoyle item. If Mithril Armor and the Hero's Holy Sword are built for Pike, this is built for the Goyle, right? This makes the Goyle kind of silly. But it's very specific. It's very specific. Pot of Greed. I'm just going to get this out of the way right now. Pot of Greed is an S tier. I would venture that Pot of Greed should be a 50-50, simply because Pot of Greed's effect is dependent on having other legendary items. Maybe? Maybe A. My thought process, I'm actually going to move this. My thought process is that by the time you get to the end of a run, you're going to have minimum probably like 2 legendaries. Whether it be a skull and a quintessence, or a skull and some items. I'll put it in A for the sake of an average run. For the sake of it being an average run, if you didn't get lucky and you managed to get like 1 or 2 legendaries, then Pot of Greed effectively counts as about 45 to 30% more damage, which is still okay. Maybe it hits 60% at a high, which is on par with things like the Staff and the Dagger and the Demonomicon. And the Master Fighter. I mean, yeah, okay, Pot of Greed. If you got an average run and you got about 60% boost, Pot of Greed is an A. If you got a disgusting run and you got, say, 8 or more Pot of Greed stacks, it's an S tier. The Pot of Greed is very circumstantial. Shoutouts to not knowing what the hell this thing does. What's next? Oh, there's the rest of the seed. So this is just the seed. This is just the version of the seed before it evolves. Same as how we've got both of the Kyrians in here, the Forbidden Sword and Kyrian itself. Forget it. Let's just put this up here. It's the same item, same justification. You don't care about the random, normal little effect. You care about the big payoff at the end. What am I going to do here? I'm thinking... Is there anyone in particular? Alright, here's Rear Blast. Rear Blast is like a solid B. Maybe even an A. B. I'm gonna stick Rear Blast in B, not because it's bad, not because it's not amazing. Rear Blast is actually fan-damn-tastic. The only issue I have with Rear Blast is that there are a couple of times I come across it and I don't have an active way of triggering it. Some of the best ways to trigger it is Thief Armor, or having Demolition, which comes from some of the axes right next to it. Or you have something like Kyrian, which is also pretty busted, Kyrian, and Gunpowder Sword. The issue is it's very dependent on having something else. And yes, you're probably going to find other items in your run if you're building around also having Rear Blast. But on its own, without having anything else with it, not really. For the same reason that Explosive Arrow is so far down, because projectiles are just, who cares? But Rear Blast, I'll leave in B. You could justify this being A or S in your list if you really want to. I'm just going to leave it in B because 1, A is getting cluttered, and 2, The Bomb in the Boots? Yeah, but I don't like the Bomb in the Boots to begin with. I don't trigger the bomb effect very often at all, to be honest. Jagamon Thorn is another one that can trigger the Rear Blast, though. Jagamon Thorn I'm going to put in B. Mostly because it feeds into its own effect. Jagamon Thorn is a madness item. The faster you swing, the more of the passive proc you get from the thorns. It's very solid, very good. It's not game breaking, but it's also not doo-doo either. It's just it's like the middle of the road. It's a very vanilla item. Very normie. Very average. Rake of Fury, I want to say, is about the same. Rake of Fury is about a B. It's one of those items that doesn't really do anything on boss fights, but it's a win more item. Once again, madness, kill an enemy, get attack speed boost, attack more, kill more dudes, get more boost, just keep going. It's like budget Pain and Despair. Pain and Despair works on everything, and it's just the best thing ever. Rake of Fury works on rooms, and is still half decent, you know? It's you know, trade-off. Let's do... Let's cover you. I'm going to, the Rapier could be a B or a C, to be honest. I'm not, I mean, I might stick a Rapier in C. B? You think B? Maybe it's a B. Yeah, I'll go with a B. I'll be nice to it. You know why I'm going to be nice to it? Because it's got 20% attack speed baked into it baseline. 20% base attack speed is pretty solid for not being a madness item. It's pretty solid. The extra effect of the little light slash is also nice. It plays into the madness trope. It's pretty good. Other than that, nothing else to really say. It just works on everyone. Just depends on how fast you're attacking to get more effect out of it. You get that unique sisters graphics. Yeah, you get points for flair. You know, yeah, points for flair. What do we have down here that's left to really go? Okay, let's get rid of some problems. Vampire Fang, D tier. Ruby Heart, D tier. These two are only in D because, once again, they're very similar to the Root, and the Shield, and the Heart. These are items that assist you if you're already having trouble, but I tell you again, if you're having trouble, aim for these boys. You're looking for Knights, the Staff, the Shoulders, the Robes, the Armor. Don't go after these. The Ruby Heart is so specific. It works really well on bomber runs and maybe even a swap Yorkshire style run, but that's about it. To swap and then kill things in like the first 2 seconds, it's too specific. It needs a wider window or just more life restored. Vampire Fang can help out a little bit. But if you're relying on Vampire Fang, trade it out for one of these and you'll get better mileage from it. That's such small numbers. It's just, yuck. It's such small numbers. Fang is way better than Heart. You can say that. Like, the Fang could be up here. The Fang could be there. The list isn't ordered from best to worst in terms of the actual tiering themselves. I just know that the Fang and the Heart both belong in D because they're not doing enough for you. Here's a hard one. I'm gonna put Ninja Mask in 50-50 because the base effect of 40% more damage is okay. Because that's 40% more, like, universal damage. It's not stipulating physical or magical, it's a universally boosting item. The only issue is, a lot of people don't like it. It requires positionals, and positioning on some bosses is actually really, really stupid. When can I actually use the mask? I know, right? The mask is very circumstantial. You can't use it on fights like Chimera or Joan, to my knowledge at least. It works really well with Backstab Thief, or Spectre, as Seven Eyes points out, but when it works, it works. When it doesn't, it doesn't. Like, it literally doesn't do anything if you attack from the front versus attacking from the back. I'm giving it the 50-50 just so I don't have to put it in D tier. I don't want it to be a D or a C. I think it's better than that. I think it depends on your build. Now, Clown Box, D. I hate the Clown Box. It scales terribly. When you swap, you shoot out Clown Boxes. They land, they blow up, they do damage. The damage doesn't scale well. If this thing did big damage, sure. It's cheeks. I don't like it. It's bad. It's not good. Ah, yes, going back very quickly, as Ghosty's pointing out, hello Ghosty, summon Beelz. Depending on where you stand, the summons will do the extra damage. So if you stand behind an enemy, and your summons are in front, it doesn't matter, you'll get the benefit. It's dependent on where you are. So, the Ninja Mask, like I said, is very circumstantial. If you're playing a summon build, get value. If you're playing a backstab build, get value. If you're playing with, like, fast skulls, get value. Otherwise, does nothing. Too circumstantial. Clown Box, however, just booty. Bad. No. Either make it do more damage or give it, like, a secondary effect that helps out with actually swapping. Otherwise, no. 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 Thorny Pauldrons? What do I do with Thorny Pauldrons? What do I do with this? It's only good in pike runs. 50-50? Really? I have to put another 50-50 in there? Yeah, I guess. I could put this in a 50-50 section because Thorny Pauldrons on pike is like his best damage boost. However, on anyone else, it's trash, and you don't take it, and it's bad. Do Pauldrons affect Genie Dash? No! It does not affect Genie Dash, unfortunately. We've actually tested this on stream in the middle of a Genie run, and I think in a video, just to really narrow in on how niche this really is. It boosts tackling dashes, so all the Power Skull tackles and Pike's dash. Because Pike does a damaging dash. Whereas Genie's dash doesn't do damage, he just has a secondary effect where he summons a minion when he dashes. Which isn't counted as a dash, which is kind of weird. Maybe if they gave this effect to Genie and let him have this benefit, it'd help him a little bit, but otherwise, too niche. Too niche, forget about it. Speaking of a bit too niche, the Warrior Glove effect does damage. It's not the worst thing in the world, but you know, it's pretty meh. I would take a lot of other items over this. It's not that great. It's just not that great. Q2 Beelz high 2 high class, say bye to you. You're leaving? Oh, that's right, you're going out. See you, Seven Eyes. Have a good one, dude. Have a good one. Be cool. Thank you for hanging for the list, dude. Go be cool. In a pike run and put all the dash items in there. I know. Although, Wind Armor managed to get out. Wind Armor managed to do really well for itself. Now, what can I do next? Warrior Steel Mace. I think it's the same thing as the gloves. I think Warrior Steel Mace has a cool effect. Having an well, not even on demand, but having a stun is kind of cute, the same way that Gnome gives you a stun, but it does like, what, 60 or 80 true damage? If that true damage wasn't true and it was physical damage, and this effect could be scaled up and do more? Yeah, dude. Yeah, dude. I would definitely go for it. I would definitely go for it. However, no, it does true damage. It's not good. It's not good. Mana Eater next? Oh, come on, dude. Don't make me do Mana Eater. Frost Witch's stuff? I'll do Frost Witch. I'll do Frost Witch. So Frost Witch... Can I stick Frost Witch in C and no one gets really mad at me? A or B? Oh no. I'm putting it in C at the moment, but I might change it if the mood strikes me. I mean... high C or low B? For me, the reason is that it doesn't have tactics. Tactics is very important for some magical items, unless they come with a lot of benefit baked in. So Demonomicon comes with Necromancy, Swap Efficiency, and its damage is raw. Hard to trigger if not spamming a skulls. Exactly. Kaito has pointed it out. It's kind of hard to keep going. It's a ramping effect that doesn't ramp too quickly. Other ramping effects are things like the Hope Slasher. The Hope Slasher triggers from doing damage. You can get that maxed out really quickly. Pain and Despair, it triggers from attacks and dashing. You can max out really quickly. Thieves' Black Steel Dagger, same deal. You can get that to maximum stacks really quickly. Witches takes time. You need Infinite Bone to help you, or you need some cooldown synergy to get this thing really going. And once you're at 8 stacks, you really need to keep those stacks active. Because if it falls off, say for example, you transition through a room, or you're doing something else, or you're doing a puzzle, stuff like that, and you lose these effects, you need to build them up again, and it's irritating. Sometimes you won't throw an ability out there, and you'll lose your stacks because you're not paying attention, and you just lost all that value. I don't think it's a bad item. I think that in most other lists, it could go in B, but C is underpopulated, and I think this is just an alright item that sees some use here and there, depending on if you're really hungry for some more magic, you know? Otherwise, I'm okay with it being where it is right now. I might actually do one here that people often ask me about, and I can justify it now, which are these two items right here. So Sphinx's Eye and the boots, right? I'm going to put Sphinx Eye and the boots here in C tier, and I have some just cause for this, right? C tier for these guys. These two are basically the magic equivalent of the boots and the bomb, right? These guys have 25% boost to physical damage plus bonus effects. The Sphinx Eye and the boots have, I think, 35% magical damage bonus plus side effects. The Sphinx Eye's side effect is you get a big damage reduction bonus for traps, so you take less trap damage. That's a lot of fun. And the Wintry boots have a jumping effect. We don't really care about that. Same as the regular boots over here, the physical ones. Comes with Blizzard, though. Blizzard's not a bad inscription, but otherwise, these two are kind of like peas in the same pod. People often ask me why I don't take these in magic runs a lot. Mostly for the same reason I don't keep the bomb and the boots in a lot of physical runs and get rid of them later, because I'm hunting down better magic items. Now, with the physical items, though, I don't know if you guys can see, but besides the 2 axes, there aren't that many other good physical items besides 2 axe and 2 sword that you can find later on, unless you start getting into legendary status. With magic, however, you can find a lot of other better items, like the Mana Bone, the Ring, the Staff, Demonomicon, Ceremonial Dagger, the Ritual Staff, and if you're playing Skul, the Necklace. There's a lot of them that you can find, right? For me, on physical, I see the bomb and the boots as being a means to an end, but with the magic ones, I'm like, I'll find something better. I don't really care about this right now, because they don't scale long term. I want tactics to scale, right? Mana as B still can't. There's a reason for that. Don't worry, there's a reason for that. There's justification. I know it's like a triple S on balance builds, don't worry. What's another one that I get asked about a lot? I might do the bracelets. I think the bracelets are a decent B. I think the mana bracelets are a decent B. They're conditional on spamming abilities, but they're a win more item. Once you've spammed enough abilities, you get the effect and you get like a massive cooldown reduction bonus, which lets you spam more abilities, which lets you just do more. It comes with some half-decent inscriptions on it. It's like budget mana engine, budget infinite bone. There's not that many items in the game that give you cooldown increasing effects. So we've got the We've got the Prayer of Grace down here in C. We've got Mana Engine and Mana Bracelet here in B. We've got things like the Infinite Bone up here in S tier. There's just not that many cooldown increasing effects because it's kind of rare. It's kind of rare. So I still think this is worth being in the same category as the Mana Engine. You have Ritual Stuff? Ah, Ritual Stuff is circumstantial to being held by a balanced skull. I mean universally. For every skull, these two, this, and where is it? This, work for everybody. And for, say, getting a speed skull, some cooldown reduction, say you're playing Ninja and you want to spam more abilities, this is really nice. Playing Werewolf and want to spam more abilities, well, I mean, you shouldn't be, because Werewolf is really good with basic attacks, but if you want to just spam lots of Beast Sleeps or more Hunt, this is okay. It's not the worst. Now, moving down into Ring of Wind territory, I don't want to put Ring of Wind in D. I actually think Ring of Wind should be a C. Yeah, I just realized I've got the Carlan stuff here. Ring of Wind, I think, is a C. 15% attack speed is not bad. 10% movement speed is whatever, who cares? But 15% attack speed, that is not shabby. That is not shabby. That helps out with some beginning of the game stuff. If you keep this on a Madness build just to get that extra bit of attack speed scaling, it's kind of good for a common. In the condition that this is a common item, it's pretty good. Long term, falls off a little bit. Short term, pretty good. Pretty good. Ring of Wind with the OG meme item. I know, it was the OG meme. I've got to put some respect on the OG meme. Now, what can I... Cretan Bull? I argue that the Bull, even on a Power Skull, is not worth it. The same as how the Gloves and Warrior Steel Mace, not worth it. I think it's a D. It's fun. It's nice flavor. It's like, haha, fun, Bull Charge, go brrr. But, nah, dude, the cooldown is too long. If you, hypothetically, if just having this item made every tackle dash do the Bull effect every single time, I would put it at like A or S. Because having that kind of mobility on a Power Skull, that's like having the Balrog Tackle. And as we know, Balrog Tackle is actually really useful. So if you buff this, if you let the Cretan Bull give that effect every single dash for a Power Skull, that's a good buff right there. That's a strong item. Maybe also make it a unique rarity, so it doesn't become too broken for a rare item. But that's a solid buff for that item right there. Grudgestone. I don't care about Grudgestone. Some of you do. I don't. I think Grudgestone is a D. It doesn't really do anything. It just, once you kill a dude, it kills, it pulses a bit of damage and does a bit of damage to other dudes around. It's a ramping effect. It helps you clear waves. Does nothing else. It really doesn't do much. 20% too stingy. Yeah, the proc rate's not that good. It's whatever. I can afford to skip that. The belt, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna put the belt in D. The belt is too dependent on people being nearby, and that just makes it worse on boss fights, worse on adventurer fights. It makes it... Why the hell did my thing close? My music died on me right there. It makes it just not good for too many situations, and in the only situations that it is good, it's a budget Master Brawler. And I'd rather just get Master Brawler than have a budget Master Brawler. If that makes sense, I'd rather just not do that. Let's put you on real quick. There we go, get some more music in there. Now, belt gives too little stat scaling wise. It does, it just doesn't do enough. Now, Ice Scale Pauldrons, Pike item. Is this just Pike item tier at this point? Pike item, it's okay for people. It's kind of trash for everyone else except Pike. Pike item, same as Thorny Pauldrons. Pike item. There, Pike item, go. 11th Finger of Lightning. Where did I put the other passive damages? Okay, I put them down here. I mean, 11th Finger could be a D. If you really want to make excuses for it, you could say it's kind of like a C because it has really good range and can snipe enemies in different areas you normally can't reach. Like, you can be running through in Act 3 in the lab, and it can snipe dudes in upper and lower floors. But do you ever keep it? Not really. You just don't keep it. But then again, you also don't keep the Carlane items here. Or the Ring of Wind. I kind of want to put it in C. I feel like it belongs in C, because it does scale off of magic damage. It gets better. It has an infinite range. It can just hit dudes nearby. And it can snipe people. It'll snipe the Sorceress Girl in the air. It'll hit Joan across the room. It does a lot. It does more than, like, tackle and have a small area of effect explosion where you did a dash. Is it that much better? No, it's like a low C, but I think it belongs in C. The Priest's Veil. B. B tier. Solid B. I'm saying B. Fight me. Fight me and you'll lose. It's a dice roll item. It's a roulette. It's got, what, 4 different effects it can give you? And they're all good. They're all fine. There's nothing really wrong with any of those effects. Whether it's attack speed, movement speed, damage, all that good stuff. It doesn't matter. It's all good. It's fine. You may not keep it long term because you want to get something with more consistency, like these boys up here, maybe. However, it's good. Keep it. Take it. If you want to, you know. It's not bad. The Mirror? Mirror feels D. Mirror is, like, circumstantial to a mutant build because it helps mutant builds very much, but outside of a mutant build, it's just there. 10% less damage taken is worse than the armor. The stiffening effect on swap is okay, but let's be real, who cares? Who cares about stiffening effects, dude? I mean, I don't care about it. For that reason, we've also got the Teacup. The Teacup also goes in D tier. This is the stiffening effect for concentration ones, right? Stiffening effect for concentration. It's handy, but it doesn't fix concentration. Concentration as a feature still doesn't work the way that it really could. Because the intention is to give this to Warrior, who is the main concentration skull that has the most issues, because Hunter can concentrate from a distance, Warlock can move while casting and dash, so who really needs this? Warrior. Does it fix Warrior? No. It doesn't fix Warrior. So it's a D tier item. My mum says hi. Hello, HFDTV's mum. Hello, I hope you're well. We're all proud of your child. Your child is fantastic. Congratulations on having a cool kid. There you go. What else have we got down here? Pocket Watch. Pocket Watch is a solid D. Same as the other concentration items. Pocket Watch is a D. It's meh. It's meh. I don't care. Volition, D. Meh. Don't care. The only one that is objectively not bottom tier D is Trainee's Necklace. Because Trainee's Necklace makes Warlock cast faster. And it makes them happen faster. It makes Warrior get through his animations faster. Hunter can go faster. This is like an attack speed buff for the skulls that use it. I'm saying it's a 50-50 because it can be used. See you later, Nautilus. Have a good one, dude. Thank you for hanging and being cool. So, in the same way that all of these other 50-50s can be used in their own circumstance if the stars align, this can be used. This is an item that I would take on a Warrior run, or a Warlock run, or a Hunter run. I wouldn't use it on Recruit because who's mashing his charge? I'm summoning, that's all I care about. However, yeah, it's in 50-50 so that it has the option of being a C. Otherwise, it's probably a D, but I'm putting it in 50-50. But Beelz, Mankey has a concentration too. No, forget that. No, monkey concentration doesn't exist. Fight me on that. The piercing dagger effect. Is that a 50-50? That's not a 50-50, right? Make a separate pike items list instead? It's not fitting for them to be it's super situational. It's incredibly situational. But the pike items are literally only the dash ones. Pike items are 4 of these items. right? It's 4 items. It's these 2 plus these 2. I think that's okay being how it is. This, however, the same as the Warrior's Glove, these are dash-centric items. However, they come with different effects that are situational and help with other skulls. The damage from the knife isn't really anything to go home about, but the extra crit chance is still better than the bow. The problem is that the bow has better longevity. You know, I'm starting to think the bow belongs in D. Can you do it all again from the beginning? I just woke up and I know that you plan to stream around every single viewer. I know. But Piercing Wind, though? Piercing Wind is okay. You know what I plan to do? You know what I might do? You know what I honestly might do? Is I honestly might take the regular Carleon bow and drop it back down into D tier. Because the Carleon bow, as a 6% crit buff, is outpaced by so many other crit boosting items, it's not funny. The only reason I want to leave the armor in C tier is because it also happens to outpace a lot of other defensive items and has synergy with the insignia. Like, I unironically would probably keep the armor longer than the bow if I was afraid for getting damaged. I keep the bow because it's damage, right? But if I was, like, the average player who hasn't spent 700 hours in the game like I have, I would keep the armor instead of the bow. 6% crit chance? 15% guaranteed damage reduction? Yes, please. That sounds nice. That sounds nice, dude. If you were playing, like, an RPG and your options were, Traveler, would you like 6% more critical strike? You would think, oh, that's pretty nice. Or 15% less damage taken. It's like, whoa, holy shit, that's like a cooldown, dude. Yeah, give me that. It's pretty good. It's pretty good when you really, really overthink it. The way that I'm trying not to. Now, we've only got a few items left. Let's go. Sage's Time, D tier. It's bad. The only skull that uses this very well is Ninja. And I still don't keep it with Ninja very often, dude. With Ninja, it's poopies. And he's the only one who uses it well. Because the whole benefit is that you get extra physical attack by using skills and having skills on cooldown. It's not great. It's not great. Cool idea, poor execution. Nias's Heart. I'm putting it in D. All it is a bit of life and some damage reduction. It's just... Wait, this isn't even damage reduction, is it? The Pauldron's damage reduction. Nias's Heart is just life, right? Nias's Heart is nothing. You're rushing? Nah. I'm just going through the items I know are trash. The Heart is kind of poopy. Freeze attacking enemies. I mean, it has Blizzard on it, but Blizzard's not enough on its own to save it. Now, what have we got left? The Bead? Ooh, Bead is a weird one. Bead is actually a weird one. Do I want Bead to go in D or C? Because the Bead is kind of situational, right? If I leave it here, do I like how it looks? Because the idea is there are some things... There's some swap synergy that I've got far lower than C tier. D? I think maybe D. I think the Bead goes in D. The effect works. The effect is fine when you swap, you stiffen nearby enemies. The problem is, like I said about the concentration stuff before, stiffening effects aren't necessary a lot of the time. Like, a stiffening effect basically will help stun someone who otherwise wouldn't be stunned. Otherwise, you can stun them normally. But stiffening effects don't work on adventurers or bosses. So realistically, you're stiffening like a big ogre or a charger. And a lot of these bigger enemies, you're better off learning how to dodge them and just evade their attacks normally than go about the process of having an entire item dedicated to getting around that, but only when you swap. I'd say D is pretty okay for this. Have a good one, HFD. Shoutouts to HFD's mother. Yeah. Go have a good one. Now, the Bunny Bun is D. Bunny is D for the same reason, the same problem. When you swap, you get a stacking buff. You want to keep swapping. It's good for mutant builds. Unironically, you probably won't have this for mutant builds, though, because it's a boss drop that drops off the sisters. Incredibly niche. not at all that easy to get. You can't find it in shops. Its rarity is a little bit higher than its actual rarity would tell you, being a unique item. Because it's a boss item, and it's honestly not worth it. I mean, we've got the rapier up here in B, because the rapier at least comes with some attack speed and a cool damaging effect. This wants you to swap constantly. It doesn't do enough. It needs to do more. For as cute as the item is, it needs to do more. Now, ooh, I see we've got the other bow down here. This bow... The bow is in D. Alright? This bow is in D. This bow is in D because it works with like one skull. Maybe two. It works with Mummy and Hunter, and that's it. It's in D for the same reason that the arrow is in D, and for the same reason that I put this other bow in D. The only bow that gets away with it is the crit bow, and the crit bow is in B. All the others go in D. A lot of the chase items end up in D, because chase specifically caters to like 2 skulls. Have you ever tried a no concentration full chase run? I've done a full chase run without concentration. It's okay, but I'd rather not take chase items and just take like physical items up the top instead. It's kind of weird. It's like, why would you... It's one of those cases of it's a cool idea, but anything else works better. Now, Mana Eater. Mana Eater is weird. Can I stick it in C and say that it's okay in C? Mana Eater makes your attacks do more damage after skills. It's not bad. It happens automatically. It works really well on some skulls that are able to get their skills thrown out there really often and then do big hits on other things, like power skulls can benefit from it. Some speed skulls do okay with it. I'd say C because it doesn't work with a lot of skulls, but with the ones it does work with, it works quite well to get big swinging hits in there. It works really nice on Warrior. Yes, it works nice on Warrior. It works pretty good with Berserker. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's not bad. I'd say C. It's kind of fair. Last 2 items. We've got the dagger and the circulator. You know what? Maybe I put the circulator... It's either C or B. Should I stick it in C? Should I stick it in C? Maybe C. I'm feeling C for the circulator. It's not quite as good as the engine. It's just got mana tech on it, and it's got like a pretty weak effect. I think C is being generous, but I don't want to put any more in D, so I'm going to leave it in C just to say, hey, it lives in C for now. That's just where it can live. And then finally, the Mana Tech Dagger. Someone remind me what Mana Tech Dagger does. Oh, the guaranteed crit every 4 seconds. Draw 2 cards? I see. The problem with that is it's too easy to mess that up. So Mana Tech Dagger probably belongs in D. I forgot all about this. That's how little I use this, because every time I see it, I know it's not worth it. The problem is every 3 seconds you get a guaranteed crit. More often than not, if you've got a decent build with a lot of effects happening, that crit is wasted. You could arguably say, just wait 3 seconds and then do like a big charged up Warrior Slam. But guess what? When Warrior charges up an ability, he pulses some damage around him, and that will eat the effect the same way that Bone of Courage does. So it doesn't really work with him. You could say, wait for the effect, and then charge up, say, a Hunter's attack, or do a really big swing with Berserker. But you have to track that, and tracking those kind of effects in the heat of battle, it's gonna get wasted. It's wasted. It's only basic attacks? Wait, it's still only basic attacks? Oh, that's worse, dude. I thought it was at least still skill attacks. Oh, that's trash. No wonder I've forgotten what this does. Dude, I at least know what most of these other things do. I can tell you that Bottled Embers sets dudes on fire. This is not good. This is bad. Nobody's basic attack should be relied upon for critical hits like that. Nobody's. If you want guaranteed crits, you pick up this bad boy. Worst item? I don't think it's the worst item. Worst item is still the root. And the guidance. If I'm ordering it, it's like this. The root is just terrible. The root is absolutely, like, abysmal. Now, look at that. Hang on, can I Jesus, this list is big. Hang on, can I... If I can't... I physically can't fit this. I physically can't fit all of this on the screen. So, let's recap. 50-50 tier is items that have really potent utility and usability. They work really well, but only in very niche situations. Oberon, dash builds, specific skulls, specific timings, like getting the Stone of the Air or the Metal Box. Very niche, very particular. D tier over here, worst items. Not necessarily hot garbage that you never want to pick up in your life, but they're just not that good. C tier, middle of the pack, probably the most boring of the boring C tier items. They're not bad, they're not great, they're just meh. B tier, the most solid of the solid. The B tier are basically your bread and butter. These are what you turn to like, get the real heart and soul and foundation of a run. A tier. Your A tier are your early to mid-game carries. You get some of these items, they're gonna just go so far with you for so long and do so much. S tier, the best in the game. Period. The best items. That's it. They are the best. It doesn't matter if you're doing a magic run and you see Suppressor, you fit it in. You're doing a physical run and you see Hope Slasher, you fit it in. I mean, hell, most builds take Pain and Despair and they're not even doing Madness because the attack speed boost is so huge. All the items on the far end here, godlike. Gunpowder Sword, objectively one of the most broken mechanical items in the game. There you go. Here is your tier list. Here is your Skul the Hero Slayer item tier list. I want to thank my glorious Twitch chat for filling in the 250,000 channel point challenge they had to do within a month. That they managed to pull off in 6 hours, by the way. So that I had to sit here and do this for you all. I hope you have all enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts down below. I'm going to leave a link to this particular item list tier maker in the description of the video. Fill it in, send it to me in Discord, send it to me on Twitter, whatever you want to do. Share your thoughts. Tell me how I'm wrong, or tell me how you disagree. Tell me where things belong. It's all objective. This is my list, not yours. Make your own. Let me know. But with all of that said and done,
you will know the tragic extent
I've got to get
of
out of
my
here.
failings.
I hope you guys have all enjoyed sitting through a lot of item crunching, and I will see you all next time. Have a good one.